Kalimera. Good morning all, Excellency, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to be here. It's also a pleasure not to go first, because thank you, Mrs. Maiden. You presented quite a bit of the concepts that all bring us here today. Innovation is the word. Let's innovate. Let's change things. I think we got this. It's pretty much a given that innovation is absolutely essential. It's actually something this old gentleman on the photo would have said. I'm sure you recognize him, Charles Darwin, who created and changed so much our perception of what it takes to survive, to thrive. Why innovate? Innovation, up to a few years ago, was about tweaking things, changing, adapting processes a little bit. Changing, but not too much, so that we feel confident that we're still along the lines of what we've been doing. Well, tweaking is not enough anymore. And I think you've already heard testimonials about this today. Looking at the past, something finance organizations have been doing for decades, like sitting on the back seat of a car and looking where they've been, to try and draw conclusions, get the past right, thinking that that will allow them to get the future right. That's not enough anymore. It takes much more to actually predict the future. And this is what we're all trying to do. To survive, you have to be able to not be surprised by the future, or even if you're surprised, to be able to react in the proper way. So innovate. Get yourself some insurance against irrelevance. So we're all agreed, innovate and use change as an opportunity to grow and thrive, or do not change, resist change, or do it badly and dwindle, perish. It's all very good. So how do you do it? How do you innovate? Does it take technology, digital technology? Yes, it does. Does it take changing things, transforming, disrupting? Does it take hiring new people? Yes, it does. It takes all of that. But it takes a little bit more. We are today at an inflection point. A lot of companies, actually existing companies, well-established companies, and even government and state organizations have this perception, this conception, that to innovate, you have to shake things up. You have to break the existing processes. You have to almost tear everything down and start afresh, as if chaos, creative chaos, is enough to create an environment from which innovation will build up. When we look at successful startups, at companies with not many processes, a lot of enthusiasm, great ideas, a good grasp of technology, it's fairly obvious that they're not burdened by processes, by the past, by procedures. So is this the reason, the only reason why they succeed? And does this doom existing enterprises to always being followers and always trying to emulate the newcomers? Sometimes it does, and it ends up with established companies doing what we call random acts of innovation. Creating a digital lab, spinning off a team that is the one that is allowed to play with new technologies, that is allowed to do hackathons and invite developers and have all the fun, while the rest of the enterprise is still doing serious business. But actually, when you ask most of the companies, they rate themselves very, very badly in their ability to disrupt and innovate. It's almost like a complex of inferiority. Why? Well, it's because actually many of these initiatives, many of these fab labs, many of these innovations initiatives don't actually produce much. Of course, many new companies do get it right, and they do produce innovation that actually leaves the lab and goes into production and produces real results linked to measurable business objectives. But many others don't. And that's where the rub lies. Linking ideas, linking innovation to measurable business objectives. Speaking to that empty chair with a customer, as you were saying earlier in your speech. This is the key, to making sure that that customer or that citizen or that employee is really at the heart of designing a new innovative solution. Not the technology that we have in stock, not the processes that we want to change, not the image that we want to emulate, but that person over there for whom we want to change life in a significant manner. So, innovation can be done, yes, but it takes a lot of work. Nobody becomes an elite athlete or a concert pianist or a very successful surgeon or any profession without a lot of hard work, without method, without repetition, without exercise. And that is my key message for today. How do you do it? Mindset, number one. Ask yourselves, ask your partners, ask your employees today. Have we trained to think and act like a business innovator? Have we invested anything in your creative capital? Do you feel that you're a part of transforming, of innovating in our collective enterprise? Do you have access to funding? If you have a bright idea, what do you actually do? Who do you go to? Who do you call on? How do you create a team? How do you get funding? Who do you convince to help you bring this idea to life? Do you have resources? It's not just funding, but human resources, processes. The IT organization, is everybody ready to join you without you having to wait for weeks, months, years for something to come out and become a reality? Have we asked you to be accountable? It's not only good to have an idea and work on it, but actually are we ready to reward you, to compensate you for innovation, but also to measure how much you're using and how good use you're making of the company resources that you've asked us to invest in order to innovate? And finally, and that is so important, and Your Excellency, you made a very good point about this. This is nothing new. This is all about change, accepting change, managing change, measuring change, and flowing along with change. Forget digital technologies, forget the disruption. It's all about managing change. Is the organization ready to do this? So that's mindset. Number two, the tools. We need tools to innovate. There's a great idea, but we need an idea, we need tools, a platform of technology in order to bring this idea to life. So you'll recognize, I'm sure, all the elements there. There's the existing information systems, the ERPs, the CRMs, the databases, the logistics and supply management software, the human resources software, everything that makes the backbone of the information system. But there's also the new technologies coming in. IoT sensor systems producing vast, enormous amounts of data in every possible and imaginable usage scenario, in every single industry. And there's even more. I just stopped trying to put every single technology on that slide. We'll hear more about blockchain later today. We'll hear more about artificial intelligence and about machine learning. There's there's also augmented reality and 3D technologies and 3D printing. All these are also augmenting the number of systems and the technologies that we need to take into account. And then, of course, all of these technologies are harnessed to bring something to users, to citizens, to partners, to employees in the enterprise. These are not just systems running in some basement. They are somehow exposed through portals, through mobile applications, through collaboration software. And all that produces data, enormous amounts of data, which are not just bits and bytes hidden at the back of a system. They're actually living assets for the enterprise. They have value. They can produce ideas and new revenue. We can create new ecosystems on data, sell data, buy data, rent data, exchange data, completely transform the way we conduct our business. And that brings me to the crowning element of that, how we manage this data around these ecosystems coming from all the elements in the information system is augmented by the ability to add intelligence, not just analyze data looking at the past, as I was saying earlier, but also use smart algorithmics in order to be able to predict the future, infuse intelligence into any and single level of the information system. Now, the key to that is using that technologies, but not using them, not seeing them as products, but seeing them as digital capabilities that are nimble, agile, that can be assembled like Lego to bring new ideas to life. Obviously, having these run on the cloud, not being immobilized as CapEx in the information system helps, and we'll talk more about this later today. But that takes care of the second pillar of innovation. Tools. I contend that there's a third one. I'm very, very keen on this one, discipline. Discipline is not something we usually hear associated with innovation. Discipline doesn't sound like fun. It sounds like a little bit something that constrains us, that bothers us. It shouldn't be. Discipline is very simply method. Being able to innovate not only once, because we had a bright idea and we got lucky and brought it to life, but because we are able to produce a veritable innovation engine, which we can use to get an idea, and first of all, frame it, associate it to business objectives, make sure that it corresponds to a real measurable business objective. And then we can do the fun part, ideation. All get in a room, put sticky notes on a wall, produce great ideas, brainstorm, and imagine the future. But it's the combination of this framing of business objectives and ideation that is brought collectively to sharing, to convincing the board, the investors, the innovators about why they should fund, why they should authorize this. And once they've authorized and funded, we can test, we can do a real test, not a mock-up, an actual test on real measurable data that validates our hypotheses. And that test is not throwaway test, it's something that then we can take to industrial scale and go into production. So it takes all three: mindset, capabilities, and discipline. I will leave you with that final statement for Steve Jobs. There's no lack of ideas. There's no lack of technology. But putting ideas, technology, with the right discipline together is what actually makes ideas happen. And the only ideas that actually count are the ones that have been executed and bring value. Thank you very much.
Thank you.